So, Berto, I thought we would talk today and just kind of ramble and talk about maybe some psychology things, maybe some tougher bluffs, maybe some gripes of wrath.
Yay!
You know, just some random stuff. What do you say, Berto?
I love it. Let's do it.
This is the Psychology in Seattle podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist, a professor, and someone who has developed a new thing at the beginning of the episode in which I also say a third thing besides being a therapist or a professor.
What? That's so meta. My name is Humberto Castañeda. I open doors for some people.
So we went to the Depeche Mode concert the other day.
Aha.
So what did you think of it?
I've seen them. I think this was my fourth time. Maybe it was my third time, but I think it was my fourth time seeing them. And
what was the first one you went to?
I was in high school still.
So Violator?
Yeah, it was a Violator.
Was it?
No, it was a Violator.
Okay,
show.
yeah. I saw them on that same tour. And they didn't come to Seattle, so I had to see them in Vancouver.
Yeah.
So, but I think that's the only other time I've seen them. So what'd you think of this show?
I did enjoy it. One of the things that's happened to me is I have not followed them or liked as much of their stuff after Violator.
Yeah, me too.
And so the first...
In fact, like, you know, Personal Jesus, like I don't consider that like a song that I care about.
Oh, interesting.
You know what I mean?
So the first part of the show, they played a lot of new material.
Yeah.
And
they played probably like 10 to 12 songs that I didn't recognize.
Yeah, exactly. And so they looked...
Maybe more.
They looked visually nice, and they sounded fine, but they didn't feel as catchy. No, I'm just not just talking about like I didn't recognize them. They didn't feel as catchy.
Right.
And in fact, they were in more of that style that they started getting into, which was, I feel like they were like, I think we need to be a little more rock.
Right.
You know? And so...
Yeah, exactly. It's like they, you know, because they went through a number of different kind of sound styles.
Yeah.
And then in like the early 90s when grunge happened, that's when they went to starting using real drums and real guitars and stuff.
And by the way,
it seems like they're kind of stuck in that zone.
That's right. And the other thing is, after that period, they used Gahan almost exclusively.
Right.
And some of my favorite songs of theirs is Martin Gore singing lead.
Right.
So anyways, for those reasons, the first part was cool, but it was the second part where they really started playing a lot of their older hits that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, I liked it too. I mean, I realized, so I came home and I made a Spotify playlist of Depeche Mode, my favorite Depeche Mode songs. And, you know, I think you and I are both like super fans. I mean, when I got Catching Up With when I was a freshman in high school, and then I got Music for the Masses, and then I got Violator in college, I think, early college. Those three albums, Catching Up With, which was kind of like a best of,
yes.
Of like Speak and Spell and Construction Time Again, and what's their other album?
But it also has a really nice version of Somebody on it.
Right.
Yeah.
Blasphemous Rumors, Just Can't Get Enough, that has like their single Dreaming of Me, which I don't think is on another album. And so those three albums to me are like the perfect albums. In fact, Black Celebration. Oh my God. So Black Celebration is my favorite album. So yeah, Catching Up With, Black Celebration, Music for the Masses, then, and I wore my Black Celebration shirt. So for you podcast listeners who aren't into this sort of thing, I suppose it's terrible, but we'll be done in a second. But my point is that I discovered that I only like those first like 5 albums.
Yeah.
And pretty much after Violator, not only am I just sort of so, I don't like it. It's like a different band.
It's a different band, yeah.
And the way I would describe it is, boring sort of rock music. Because when you listen to their first 5 albums, the rhythm is really complex.
And the sonic landscape is so incredible.
Yeah, I mean, Black Celebration, like a song like But Not Tonight, which is, I think, is that your favorite Depeche Mode song?
That is, if not, it's like top 3 for sure. I have often listed it as my favorite.
Yeah, it's definitely my favorite. In high school, I actually studied that song note for note and recreated it. And it took me forever on my like weird rolling keyboard. But anyway, you know, they were very complex back then. And then somewhere, again, mid-90s, they turned into this sort of droning music. And instead of like interesting drum machine music, it was basically just kind of like driving beats. You know?
It all, for me, it all started going downhill with I Feel You.
Right.
I feel.
Right. Well, that's that album, you know, and then personal Jesus. Yeah. And so every song is like that, where it's like Gahan is like, like low and boring. Yeah. Instead of like, you know, dreaming of me, you know, it's like where there's less melody, I guess, is
less
the point.
harmonies or beautiful harmonies.
Yeah.
My experience with Depeche Mode was interesting because in Colombia, I think I talked about this before. In Colombia, I listened to Top 40 exclusively, had no access to records, really. I couldn't buy records. So I knew some of their top hits and didn't really know who it was. I loved those songs. When I moved up here, I met my friend Ron, and within the first few weeks we knew each other or whatever. Or no, first few days. What am I talking about? He's like, well, what music do you like? I'm like, I don't know. I like this. He's like, do you like Depeche Mode? I'm like, I don't know. He's like, what? And then he started playing. I'm like, oh, I love that song. I love that song. And then it turned out, of course, I love Depeche Mode. And I should clarify, it's not that Depeche Mode was a band I liked. Depeche Mode was like, for me, only second to the Beatles in that age.
Right.
Like I was so obsessed with Depeche Mode.
Yeah.
My ranking's slightly different, maybe because of an age thing. To me, Violator is one of my favorite albums of all time.
So good.
And then Music for the Masses, then Black Celebration. So like, but same. After that, it changed.
Right. Yeah, for me, I was on the bus, I remember, as a freshman, and for some reason, I befriended this girl who we would call today a goth, you know. When we were young, in Issaquah, we called them bat cavers.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we called them bat cavers.
Bat cavers.
And for some reason, her and I were not friends in any other context. I think it was like I didn't know anyone on the bus route or something, and so we sat together all the time and we would talk, and she introduced me to Depeche Mode. She brought the record to school, and you know, on the bus, and gave it to me, and then I brought the record home, and
which one was it?
Catching Up With, and then I instantly had to get that album.
Oh wow.
And I remember, you know, 13, 14 years old, just listening to Blasphemous Rumors.
Oh my God.
And just being so moved. I mean, so much of my like goth vein in me comes from that album in particular. And none of my friends are really into it, you know what I mean? Right. So it felt like a very personal situation for me. And I too, like you, it wasn't like I just kind of liked Depeche Mode. I was really into the Beatles. I was really into Depeche Mode. I was really into Devo. Like early Devo.
Sure.
I was really into early U2, like the first few U2 albums.
See, I don't know much early U2.
Especially Unforgettable Fire. To me, Unforgettable Fire is this almost perfect album.
Really?
It's really good. And I was really into early NXS.
They were great.
You know, that Listen Like Thieves album I listened to all the time. And I was really into Hall & Oates.
That's funny.
And
I mean, they had great songs. Great songs.
I'm trying to think. There's another band in there that I'm not remembering. But anyway, REM. I was really into the first four up until Document.
So before I got into them.
Yeah. In fact, today I can listen to I can listen to Catching Up With, I can listen to those albums of Depeche Mode and love it.
Yeah.
And I can also listen to the first 4 REM albums and just like love every track.
Interesting.
Anyway, so didn't you get in a fight at the...
Almost, yeah.
Tell me about it. What happened?
Yeah, dude, it was incredible. So I spent a lot more money than I should have on these tickets because when I went to buy them, they had sold out. So I had to go to one of those resale sites.
How much did you spend?
I think for 2 tickets, I spent $600.
Okay, well, that's not too bad.
Well,
you were on the floor.
I was on the floor. Yeah.
You're pretty close.
Yeah. But I mean, $600 for it's like, it's a lot of money.
That's how things go these days.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm sitting there. And so I got, good seats, not great. Like I'm not front row or anything. I'm like in the second quadrant. So, there's a lot of people in between, but still, it's good.
I was in the back.
Yeah. Sometimes I felt like maybe a little bit higher would have been better because I could have seen better, but whatever. I am enjoying my time. The show starts and, because as I said, those first songs aren't the ones I love.
Yeah.
But I was still taking every song that was visually interesting, I would take a small little video clip and a photo.
Oh no, I'm predicting where this is headed.
Okay. All right, so I'm sitting there doing that. And
everyone's doing that.
I know, everyone.
I took some pictures too, but there was someone behind me taking a picture with her flash on.
Oh God. Okay.
She's taking a video with her flash on.
I was not doing that.
I mean, it wasn't terrible, but I I was like,
and by the way, I was recording on average 8 seconds and then turning it back off.
Yeah. And everyone's doing that.
Everyone's doing it. Now, do you remember the song where the video starts with the leg of a woman and then it moves along the leg?
The dancers,
of a woman? Yeah, okay. In that song, I was recording 20 seconds.
Okay.
I was filming 20 seconds. All of a sudden, from my right side, I see someone's phone with their flash on, and it's shining in my eyes. So immediately what goes through my head is, Kirk or Ron, did they get down here? Like, is someone I know behind me? Because I'm thinking, someone's trying to take a selfie or just fuck with me, right? And as I turn, I've got a smile. I'm like, what? And I turn and I see a dude I definitely don't recognize. And I'm like, what the hell was that? And he's like, and he says something like, well, you shouldn't be, that'll show you not to film, or you shouldn't be filming or something like that.
Well, so let me ask a question because it matters. I was in the back, so I'm in the stands.
Yeah.
So the stands are steep enough that people in front of me would be standing and dancing and taking pictures and stuff, but they did not obscure my view at all.
Right.
Like they were, 2 feet below the top of my head or something like that. Right. What was it like in your rows?
It's flat, right? So we're on the floor, so everyone's flat.
And the stage isn't that high.
And the stage is not that high.
So if you're filming, you're definitely probably obstructing the view of somebody behind you.
Exactly. And it happened to be, I figured it out later, he had a girlfriend who was significantly shorter than us, than him and I, because him and I were about the same height, and he had a girlfriend, and she was the one complaining. Yeah.
So just a tip here to you and everyone else out there about this sort of thing, because I do this as an Asian person. I take a lot of video and a lot of pictures, and what I do is I put it right in front of my face, and I hold my arms in.
Tip.
But it's so close to my eyes, I can't tell what I'm filming. But I'm just like, well, I don't know what I'm getting.
Can't you turn off the camera or the screen maybe?
So that's another thing.
Okay.
Is you always turn down to the very lowest setting the screen brightness.
So all these things are totally fair. Now, you know me. Let me ask you a question. If while I am doing that, someone taps my shoulder and says, hey, can you please lower it a little bit because it's shining in our eyes?
Yeah.
What do you think I would do?
You'd be like, oh, sure.
So-fucking-lutely. And I would feel sort of embarrassed a little bit, like, I'm sorry, I was blocking you, right? Yeah. But when someone aggressively shines a flashlight in my eyes...
People are douchebags.
Passive-aggressive?
Yeah.
So I turn around...
that's just aggressive.
And I say first, like, what the hell was that? And he says that. And I say, okay, well, next time, ask me nicely.
Yeah.
And then he's like, well, maybe I will, maybe I won't. I'm like, ugh. And I look at him, it's like, what are you? And then I turn around because I'm like, I do not want to get kicked out right now. I want to enjoy this fucking concert. Okay.
Oh no. So that's, I just have to say, that's not what I would predict you would do, because you're not a aggressive person.
Well, it gets better or worse.
So what do you think it was about? Because in my perception of you is like, if someone's being a douche, you're likely to kind of make a joke and move on, but it seems like that really got to you.
Well, when someone is being a douche verbally or something like that, I normally find their douchebaggery so funny,
right,
that it's like words and a bone or whatever, sticks and stones, right? So But this was aggression, and like he didn't touch
douche
me.
in bags.
Douche in bags. So he didn't touch me, but that came damn close, and it was definitely aggressive. And I mean, it's a light in my eyes, right?
Yeah,
it's
but
crossing a certain boundary.
But I just have to say, as a hearer of this story, and as a person who hates douche in bags in this way, but I have to say, like, and based on you're turning around, you're like, what the hell? And he's like, well, and he didn't. Was his demeanor?
He sounded snarky. He absolutely sounded.
He was
snarky.
being a dick.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't like, oh, I'm sorry. It's just that. No, he said, well, then you should blah, like snark. And so I said, okay, well, next time ask me nicely. And he said, well, maybe I will, maybe I won't. Okay, so I turned back around and I'm thinking in my head, after the show, I'm going to confront him, but I'm not going to get kicked out right now. Now, there's a guy standing next to me whom I don't know and is a tall dude. He's probably 6'3", maybe. And he saw what happened, and he leans into me. He's like, dude, you could totally film. Everyone is filming. Right. Don't you worry about this, dude. Whatever. Like, you should totally do it. Yeah. And it's like, and if he starts anything, I've got your back.
Really?
Yeah. I was like, okay, man, thanks. But I'm definitely not trying. Like, I just want to enjoy the show. So, but I keep filming. Now I don't feel concerned for them at all. I'm like, whatever. So I'm filming.
I got a big, tall dude.
Yeah. And I also keep doing it the way, it's not like I do it more, but I also don't do it less. So I keep it to my average 8-second film, quick photograph, put it away. Yeah. I don't do it every song because not every song is interesting. Yeah. I keep doing it the entire show. He doesn't say another peep. Okay. And by the way, there are people in front of me filming an entire song.
Yeah. That's, I mean, as long as they're not obstructing people's view, I'm fine with it. But yeah, that always boggles me. It's like, are you going to watch that entire video one day?
Right. Yeah. But the thing is, for me, and granted, it's just me versus other people's taste. I don't care. I'm like, oh, go ahead, film, whatever. But I understand if someone's getting really bothered, I could adjust. Show ends. It's, we're waiting for the second encore that never comes, and they finally turn on the lights.
I told you they weren't going to do a second encore.
But I was still hoping against hope because they lasted a little too long with the dark lights. I was like, God damn it. Yeah. Okay, so they turn on the lights.
But they also did we're definitely leaving because they came to the front.
Yeah, they did the bow and stuff. Yeah. Well, okay, so the tall dude and his friends have walked away, and the lights come on. And I turn around, and here's the thing. I don't actually remember. There's 3 dudes. And then this gal, and I don't remember which one it was because it was like, so I turn around and it was like, okay, so what the fuck was the problem?
Oh my goodness.
And I'm looking and no one's picking up the thread. And I point at one dude. I'm like, was it you? And then him and his buddy goes like, no, it wasn't us. And then the guy finally like stands up and I'm like, was it you? And he's like, yeah, it was me. And I go like, well, what the fuck was your problem or something like that?
Oh
and he says
gosh.
like, well, you were filming your thing. It's like, and his girlfriend gets in on it. It's like, yeah, you were filming, obstructing. And I said, every fucking person in this crowd was doing that. But there was only one asshole shining a flashlight in someone's eyes. What was it? And I was like, I'm saying you're a fucking asshole.
Oh, God.
And the guy's like, oh, yeah? Okay, you're going to have to calm down. It's like, no, you're a fucking asshole. And then the people I was with start trying to like calm me down and like, dude, let's just go. And I'm like, all right. And then, but his girlfriend like starts saying something. And okay, and this, I push it too far. I say to her, I'm like, I feel sorry for you. And then the guy's like, what are you saying? What are you saying about her? I'm like, I'm not saying anything bad about her. I'm saying I feel sorry for her. It's like, you got to watch your fucking mouth, or you watch your mouth or something. And I'm like, well, I'll watch my mouth. And then I said something like, look, all I know is if I ever meet you again, I will know you are a fucking asshole. and then at this point, they've convinced me to walk away. But someone I'm with starts then yelling as well at them. So then the guy starts getting aggressive again. And I'm like, okay, fine, let me through. And I'm like, I'm getting in a fucking fight right here. But finally, like, they drag me away.
What was going to be your plan?
Well, I was trying, I'll be very honest. There were 2 things that had run through my mind the entire concert, which it sucks because like it definitely affected my enjoyment. The first thing was, I cannot let this person get away with this with no consequences. So I need to say something.
Yeah.
But in retrospect, I now know that what I really should have said is when I turned around and I said, don't do something like, you should have asked me nicely. I should have said something like, look, if you do that again, I'm calling the bouncer. Like, I will let the bouncers know to remove you. something like that, like draw a line that includes the authorities in the place that we're in, rather than the more childish, like whatever I said later, you're a fucking asshole. And but the second thing that was running through my mind, and it is childish, was I am going to see if I can trigger him to make a first move. Because I'm certainly not going to turn around and start a fight, but I'm going to insult him to see if he does something.
And you're cool with getting into a fist fight with a rando?
No, but okay, but he also, like, first of all, when I first turned around, this wasn't like some, 7 foot tall gargantuan. He was a dude about my height wearing glasses. And of course he could be a lethal Delta Force killer, right? But at the end of the show, when I turned around, there were more signals that led me to get more confidence. One was when I said, okay, what the fuck was happening? He didn't speak up. When I finally pointed at him, he said, yeah, it was me. And then when I called him a fucking asshole, he didn't do anything. And then the most he did was when I said something to his girl, he's like, you watch your mouth, So in my mind, I'm like, I don't think he wants to fight, but I want him to do something because I want to punch his fucking face.
You did want to punch him.
And I realized now it was maybe, I just felt so angry, Kirk. No one does that. Like no one is so aggressive. And the only person I know that gets that aggressive to strangers is me when I've been really drunk in my past life. And then I started realizing, geez, I've been a freaking asshole. And so, in retrospect, I think I need better ways to handle those situations.
Well, yeah, and I feel like this is does it feel out of character for you? Because I feel like these sorts of things happen to you all the time where...
No one the only times that people had physically aggressed towards me was like in junior high.
So this was a physical aggression to you.
Yeah, and whenever someone would do something like that in junior high, even if they were much bigger, I would try to do something about it, which sometimes resulted in me getting my arm twisted till I said, okay, I give. But I would still try to do something about it because if it was, I just hate it. Anytime I saw someone being a bully to someone,
yeah,
I would not stand for that, And so this felt like a bully.
It felt like a bully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was like, God damn it. Like when I was in Colombia, there were, and I mean, I just got really lucky that it didn't happen to me as much, but there were people that I saw getting bullied really bad.
Yeah.
There was this one kid who, he was one of the taller kids in our class, but the kids 2 grades older than him would beat him up all the time. And I saw it and I was always so pissed. And anyways, long story short, this triggered me.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm not standing for this.
Yeah. That's interesting. I mean, so if we could rewind the clock a little bit and just be like, okay, they did that thing and you turn around, you're like, huh, who is that? And they're like, so try to recreate.
Yeah.
Because I think that's a key moment.
Yeah. In that moment, my head switched from a fun, like, oh, who is this?
To who is this?
What?
And
why would someone
and
do
what did
that?
What was his demeanor? What did he say? How did he say? What did he say?
I wish I remember exactly, but it was something like, because I said, what the hell was that? And then he said, well, something like, well, maybe you shouldn't be, shining the thing, or something to the effect of like, maybe you shouldn't be doing what you were doing, something like. And even at the very end, when we were in the back and forth, he said, well, at least I got your attention, or something like that. So it's like that was his way to quote unquote get my attention and make me stop doing it.
Yeah. Well, whenever I encounter situations like this, I always try to break it down into like logic on both sides, or the sort of the road that led each person to that behavior.
Yeah.
And the one thing I know is that people, particularly who have been bullied or experienced bullying when they were young, are sensitive in public to things that might seem like they're bullying. So I'm just, it's total speculation.
Yeah.
But he's there and he's with his girlfriend.
Right.
And they're, they spent probably the same amount of money you did on the tickets.
Yeah.
It's a big night for them. And she's short and they're like, shit, we're on the floor.
Yeah.
maybe we should have got some tickets in the stands, maybe closer to the stage, or close-ish to the stage. But this whole show, this 5-foot girl isn't going to see anything.
Yeah.
She's just going to see the top of the big screen that they have,
Right.
And so that's the first kind of thought, and he feels bad, he feels guilty. And then he's sitting there, and then the little bit she can see is occasionally being obstructed by you because you're filming. And she might even like roll her eyes, she's like, oh, she's not, maybe she's not upset at you, but she's just like, who knows what kind of demeanor she's been having. And then he's watching that, and he's just like, oh man.
Right.
And
so far I'm so with them, right?
So
Like
every second that goes by is just this mounting stress level, right? And if he's looking at the back of the head of a dude, and he's like, okay, please don't film anymore. Just like in his head, he's like, I hope, and then you do this one time where it's just like, 20 seconds.
This was the longest one.
How long is this going to last for? And then he, in his head, has this crossroad. There's 3 paths.
Right.
One is to do nothing, which he's been doing for a while. Another is to do what he did.
Yeah. And
another is to try to do something that society has not taught anyone to do.
Which is just ask nicely.
in public to someone you don't know. And I can tell you from personal experience that I know what this is like, because like there have been times when I've been on an airplane and someone will be sitting behind me and doing various shenanigans with my seat that's annoying me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like whenever they stand up, they grab the back of the seat and they get up and they use my seat as like a rag doll to get out of their, and it's like, and meanwhile I'm woken up and I'm flailing about, I'm exaggerating, but anyway, the point is that there have been times when I've been, in that situation, and I'm look, I'm a mature 46-year-old man who knows how to communicate. I should be able to turn around and ask this fellow to not do that. How do I do that? In our society, in which if I could open it up so nicely, I could turn around and be like, hey, my name's Kirk, and I just wanted to say to you that I'm sure you don't mean to do this, but when you grab the seat, it really is disruptive to me. There's a 50% chance that that's going to go well.
Right.
There's another 50% chance he's going to be like, turn around, douchebag, because our society is not set up to handle stuff like that. Okay. So he's sitting behind now, and he, obviously doesn't have the communication skills that I have. And so he's at this crossroad. I can do nothing. I can figure out some way to very quickly communicate to this guy to knock it off. Or I can, tap him on the shoulder and be like, hey, my name's so-and-so, and I have glasses. And
just ask nicely, damn it.
And I'm just like, hey, but I'm now totally reasonable requirement for someone to do. But I'm here to tell you, as someone who's, I know, been in his shoes,
sure, that
there's just this unpracticed thing in our society about that sort of thing, and a worry that the person is going to tell you to fuck off, because they're not going to take it well. They're not going to take direction from a stranger very well. You know what I mean? And so it's like in his head, he's like, okay, well, how can I quickly do something, And so he's like, well, how about I take my phone and like shine the light in his eyes? Now, stupid.
Yeah, and it's because, you could use different. I'm at the restaurant, someone's eating and they're slurping loudly from their drink. I don't want to say anything, but it's bothering me. Finally, I get up, I take the drink away without saying a word, and I put it on the other side of the table.
That feels like an analogy to you.
I don't touch him. I just grab the drink, put it on the side of the table, and I don't say anything. I go sit back down.
To me, an analogy in that situation would be you slurp even louder.
Okay, sure, but like right up to fine. I get right up to his ear and I slurp loudly. Right. Because remember, he put it right in my eyes.
Right, totally, yeah.
So I get right up to, that's fair. I grab my drink, go up to his ear, and I go, slurp really loud.
Right. My point is that, and then from your end, you're just having a good time. And then all of a sudden, there's a thing in your face.
Yeah.
Like a bright light in your face.
And my brain, the only thing my brain can reconcile it to is only a friend of mine
right.
would do such a thing.
So you turn around and you're like, so this random dude just stuck his hand and this light like within an inch of my face.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And instead of being like, so you're at a crossroads.
Right.
So you can either do nothing and turn around and just be like, you can be like, oh, okay. And then just forget it, move on. Or you can do what you did, which is more of like have an aghast kind of reaction and come at him with a little bit of aggression as well.
Which, by the way, when I turn around and I said, what the hell? And he said, before he told me why he did it, like if I had just turned back around, like if I had turned and I'm like, I don't recognize him. I actually, maybe later, but in that moment, I would have had no clue why he did it.
Right.
So the thing he was trying to get me to stop, I would have not tied those dots together.
Right.
I would have been like, that was weird.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. So, or you could have, and I'm not saying I would have done this,
Sure.
but a way out of it that would have been that if I was in your shoes and I was looking back, I would have wished that I would have been like, oh, so you don't like it when I'm filming. Am I getting that straight? And and you're short and you probably can't see. I get it. You could have just tapped me on the shoulder, but okay, that's cool. I'll try not to do it that much. Sorry about that. Now in my head, I'd be like, that dude's a douchebag, but at least, because for me, this is how I think about like happiness in life. And I'm not telling you that, I'm just telling you.
Yeah, I know, I get it.
Is I don't want to have to sit through the next 2 hours of a concert worrying about some douchebag behind me drilling holes in the back of my head with his eyeballs. You know what I mean?
Which is, yeah, I hear you.
So then you turn around and then you're that tension and just your trauma reaction just builds and builds, and you're just like, you were blowing steam like Popeye or something. So when you turn around, you did something that, when was the last time you tried to get into a fight with someone?
Well, the last time I confronted someone, but it was nowhere near the same, do you remember I told the story about the storage unit? And how there was a dude there and he was telling me, be quiet. Yeah. But the key difference there is, I also think the guy was being a jerk, but clearly there was bad stuff happening in his life at the moment.
But that was lesser.
He he wasn't aggressively in my face. In fact, he drew a line and said, "Do not invade my space."
Right.
And then I did a tactical mistake in that as I was walking away, I made fun of him in some way, and that pissed him off further. But that's as far as that got.
But before that, when was the last? Because you talked about that story on the podcast a couple of years ago. But when was the last time before that?
Well, actually, recently. Okay, before that, but recently I had another incident. Did I mention the one about the plane?
No.
With the dude that was yelling at a lady?
No.
Okay, so I was.
Maybe you did.
Yeah, I was coming back from Colombia, and I was in this plane, and as I was walking up to my seat. And this is after they've delayed flights. So everyone is stress level super high. This short, very, very short gal is kind of struggling to get her suitcase up. And I see this guy yelling at her, like really aggressively. And then she's saying,
Colombian?
No, he looks like Jason Statham, but like a little brother version of him. And he's got an accent, actually. He's bald. He's got an accent. And he's yelling at her.
English accent?
Yeah, or Australian or something. I can't quite tell those accents. But he's yelling at her, and I'm like, what's going on? And then she's like, well, I'm just trying to get my suitcase above my seat. And then he's like, oh, like that's so fucking important. And then, so I walk up and I say, hey, she is just trying to put her suitcase where she is sitting. And he's also already sitting down, and he says, What's it to ya, sunshine? Which, by the way, I nearly burst out laughing because that's like such a cartoon villain thing to say. But I was in disbelief. And in that moment, the last thing I wanted to do after all that wait is get kicked off the airplane, right, for starting something. So I just looked at him and I'm like, what is your problem? Like, what is wrong with you? And then he mumbled something, and then like his wife like calmed him down or something. And that was the end of it. But I sat next to him the whole flight.
You sat next to him?
Yeah. Like meaning across the aisle.
Oh.
And so that was the last time before this one. But that one, he didn't do anything to me. He was being a bully to her. Yeah. And so I felt like I needed to say something.
Yeah.
But anyways, so before the one that I mentioned, it had been, I don't even know.
Yeah, a long time.
A long time.
It's interesting.
Why are these happening more frequently?
That's a good question.
People are more stressed.
People are more stressed.
Okay. Well, I do wish that what I would have said, I do not regret saying, what the hell was that? Because I didn't know what the hell was that.
Yeah.
When he said, whatever, I still like that I said, you could have asked me nicely, but I wish I would have said something like, if you do that again, I'm going to notify the bouncer because that is too aggressive or something like that. Now, with the wisdom that you're imparting, I also wish I would have said something like, but I understand that light is bothering you. I'll make sure it's lower. Just next time, it's something like that. And then the hard thing is, if he doesn't react nicely to my niceness, oh, man.
Yeah, I get it, dude.
Oh.
I get it. It's this weird man thing, and I think women have it too to some extent, but men more, of justice in public or something. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, for sure. There have been times, I mean, there was a time 20 years ago, maybe longer, where this guy and I had a thing like that once. And it was worse than that. It was bigger than that. Yeah. And every few months, this event will pop back into my head.
Because it was so salient.
And it's like, because I have this man part of me that's like, he never got his just dessert.
Sure.
You know, I never got him back
sure.
for what he did. And but it's like, logic says, what's the difference? You know, what is the difference? Because if tell me what's the goal, you know, and what's your goal? You know, if I was to stop time and go like, Berto, what are your hoped for objectives as you, by the time when you get home and you go, yes,
I did it.
What are you hoping for?
I certainly am not hoping to have a broken nose or a broken arm
or in jail for
assault or being lawsuited into oblivion.
Yeah.
No, that's all true. And actually, the actual offense, even though it was aggressive, in the grand scheme of things, was nothing. I will say the one in the plane, now, all those questions are still completely valid. For some reason, I feel like stuff like that starts eking into a different area, which is if you truly see social injustice, there is a line beyond which you sort of have to get involved.
Well,
I don't know what that line is.
Right. So in an instance where you're trying to, if the objective is, I want to put an end to this. So I think there are two objectives that often I think are present. One is I have to put an end to the mistreatment of someone, even if that's me. Two, I want to stop this person from mistreating other people.
Yeah.
Because so the first one I think makes total sense. It's like, if there's an injustice happening, let's put an end to that because that's, you know. So in the first instance, all you had there wasn't going to be any more. He had already pulled his hand back and that sort of thing. So that was over. In the instance with Statham, it's like, okay, you're trying to de-escalate.
Oh, and actually now I remember what I actually said to him when he said, "What's it to you, sunshine?" Wasn't "What's your problem?" I actually said, "Dude, calm down."
Yeah.
Which some people can get further triggered by that. But I was sort of trying to imply to him, remember, we're all in this together.
Right. So that's the second goal of, for future reference, I am going to try to teach you how to behave in public.
Yeah, right.
Okay. So that objective is ridiculous because there's no effing way, especially in the way that people typically do it, which is in the future,
which is what I told this other guy. In the future, next time you should ask nicely.
Right. Yeah. The chance that, I mean, you're giving them an opportunity. Maybe they'll learn from that. But there's other ways that you can manipulate people. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
And the things that I try to think about are strategies that don't involve direct confrontation, but do involve them being given the opportunity to think about what they've done. Like you're walking up, you see this Statham woman thing, and you walk up and you're just like, oh, is this guy yelling at you? Maybe I could try to help you, and maybe he'll stop. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I address her.
You address her. You're just like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Is this guy yelling at you? Oh my God. Wow, he's really loud, isn't he? Let me help you. Let me help you do that. And then if he says something to you, you just ignore it.
Right.
Okay. So I'm not saying that's what I would do in that situation, but I'm saying those are things I try to look for.
Yeah.
Because direct confrontation, I guarantee you, Statham in glasses today is telling a story about what a dick you are.
I was.
Because it's emotional reaction.
Sure.
You know, like you can't, you're not going to be like, you know what, that guy, he really, he
had a point.
He had a point. He really made me think about it. In the future, I'm going to, it's just,
well, especially, one thing that was really telling towards the end of the confrontation, I looked at the girl and I said, if you guys had asked me nicely, see, I'm a nice guy. And she's like, oh, are you?
That's what she said.
She said, oh, are you? Which makes sense that she would ask that, because if a guy is in your face calling your boyfriend a fucking asshole repeatedly, that probably is not something that you think of as a nice person.
Right. And your depiction of their behavior after, at the end of the show was basically one of like de-escalation.
Well, of her. He was, I wouldn't say he was, okay, to be fair, he wasn't
escalating.
Escalating.
He was trying to get you to back off.
He wasn't
by your description.
Okay.
It was because he could have been like, let's go, or he could have been like, you're a fucking asshole. From your description.
Okay, so he wasn't doing that, but
your description, he was like, watch your mouth.
Yeah.
He was like, stop it. He was essentially like, let's end this. Just knock it off. So, now I'm not saying he did a great job, but I'm saying like being in their shoes, they don't know who you are.
Yeah.
They don't know you're a nice guy. They don't know you can be reasoned with. As far as they know, you're this super fucking hothead.
Well, yeah, I could see that. But I still have this. Does this tactic work for him in general? Like,
right. So this is a valid question.
Yeah.
But neither one of you is a good evaluator of the other person's general behavior.
Sure.
And in my experience, most people are nice. Like most people are very nice and they're trying to do their best. And if they did something in error, it's because they don't have the social skills to facilitate a situation that will go well for them.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, I can relate to that. The amount of times when I've wanted to say something to someone in public and just not because I was afraid of screwing it up. There's a lot of there's way more situations where I didn't say anything than when I actually said something.
Yeah.
And when I typically do say things, it's because I've gotten so upset and it comes out wrong,
I see.
Where I just start yelling at somebody, And so what I'm saying is that you are making a judgment of him that he in general is a dick and he needs to learn his lesson, And he now thinks that dude's a fucking hothead and a dick, and he needs to learn to like calm down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like neither one of you are probably right about that.
You're probably right about that. I was at a concert not too long ago. I forget what it was, but there was a couple in front of me. There was an older guy and a young gal. And they had just sat down. The show had started. And it was a comedy act. It was when I went to see Chris Rock.
Okay.
And they were being like loud and talking and making their own comments about the ceiling and other things
During the show?
Ugh. And Chris Rock hadn't started, so I'm like, I'm now losing a lot of what the dude is saying, this comedian, and I'm enjoying it. I'm like, so I had to say something.
Yeah.
And the thing I said was like, I leaned in, I said, guys, come on, or something like that. Like, come on, guys, or something like that. And it stopped.
Yeah.
So I didn't pull a hothead there.
Yeah.
And luckily for me, but the thing that sucks is I missed like not only the amount of time that they were talking of the thing, but I kept thinking about it for the next like 5 minutes. So I missed like 10 minutes of the guy's performance.
Right.
It just sucks.
Right. Yeah, I get it. I've been there many times. I have discovered there are many kinds of audience members, you know, and when you're next to or in front of someone who is like that, you know, I think I told you about when I saw the Lego movie. I was sitting in front of a woman, like it was a packed house Lego movie, and that's a funny movie, lots of laughs, lots of people laughing and stuff. And this woman behind me, directly behind me, repeated every joke, like out loud.
Oh no!
Verbally.
Oh no!
And because she'd be like, ha ha ha! Oh, that's what she said. Ha ha ha! Oh, I was just trying to see your skirt. Like she would repeat it, and like after the fifth time, I'm like, is she gonna do this the whole movie? And it like kind of dropped my experience of the movie, because every time something funny happened on the screen, I thought, here it comes. She's going to say the line,
So was this guy's flashing the light in my eyes his, come on, guys?
Right. That it was his, and probably a result, and his attitude when you turn it around was a result of his mounting frustration and embarrassment and shame or something around his girlfriend not being able to see,
Okay.
Having said all that, Berto, if I was next to you right with that, I would have been exactly the same as you. I wouldn't have reacted necessarily the way you did, but if I was with you and you said, and I saw it happen, and you turned around in the moment, if it was happening, I wouldn't be trying to calm you down.
Sure.
I'd be like, if this comes to blows,
like that
glasses guy is gonna get a punch in the nose.
Yeah, like the dude next to me, which I found hilarious. He was like, and by the way, he talked to me for the next several songs. Actually, no, for almost the rest of the show, we kept talking. I don't know this guy at all, and he kept saying like, "Oh, do you remember this song?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, one of my favorites." And then like we became buddy just over that, because he was like. And he kept saying, he was like trying to like little brother me, he was like, he was encouraging me, you should film more. Look, she's doing it. And I was like, oh, thanks, man.
All right, well, let's take a break, I guess, and get back and maybe do some tougher bluffs. What do you say?
Let's do it.
All right, we're back from the break. This episode is brought to you by Talkspace. Talkspace is an online counseling outfit that provides online counseling, and it's pretty cheap, relatively cheap. And when you use the promo code KIRK, K-I-R-K, you actually get a discount. And also, when you use the promo code KIRK, then it signals to them that you are one of my listeners, and they're more likely to continue their sponsorship. We only need 2 or 3 people to sign up every month in order for them to continue sponsoring these episodes, which is a big deal. So if you're thinking about it, you're thinking about getting a therapist, and you're having a hard time finding it, or you're kind of on the fence, sign up for Talkspace, use the promo code KIRK, and you can find out right away. Maybe after a couple weeks, you're like, this isn't for me, or I don't really like this therapist. Then, it's a very low barrier to entry and a low barrier to exit is the point.
And look, stats show that 6 out of 10 family members are crazy. So you must know several people in your family that you can directly refer to Talkspace.
Yeah, that's not a statistic, but but yeah, you can also refer other people. You can even post on Twitter something, Talkspace promo code KIRK. It doesn't need to be you. It could be anybody. Anyone who uses promo code KIRK, it helps us. Okay, tougher bluff.
Oh, wait. Can I do a gripes of wrath first?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So I'm at a restaurant today, eating before coming here.
This whole episode has gone completely off the rails. Okay, here's another thing, listeners. If you like this sort of thing or don't like this sort of thing, let me know. Email contact@psychologyinseattle.com or comment on YouTube or whatever, because we almost never do rambly episodes like this.
Oh, really?
Well, we've done episodes where it's like designed, like we did a whole Beatles episode where it's just like, well, that's designed. But you and I usually don't just, do this kind of stuff. And I wonder if it's entertaining.
So you want people to tell us if they liked it.
Or hate it, yeah.
Okay, if you hated it, I'm going to turn around, point my finger, and say, what the hell was that? All right.
Yeah, isn't that my move?
That's your move, the pointing finger.
Yeah.
Yeah, I learned
That's probably the last...
I learned it from watching you.
So Berto and I, years ago, that was probably the last, aggressive fight
confrontation
I've been in the last 10 years was between me and Berto. We got in an arguing match, and I
pointed his finger.
I put my finger in his face.
Yes. It was quite epic. All right. So, gripes of wrath. I'm sitting there at dinner tonight before coming here, and I ordered a curry that has pineapple in it.
Yeah.
And, get it super spicy. I'm so excited to eat this curry.
What color curry?
It's yellow. It's a masamam curry, and it's got anyways, the tofu and the pineapple and the potatoes and the carrots. I'm so excited. It's
Indian
spicy.
food?
No, it's a Thai place.
Okay.
I get the rice. I pour a little bit of the rice in, and I start eating. I'm like, oh, yummy, yummy. Grab one of the pineapple pieces, put it in my mouth, start chewing. The pineapple tastes fermented. You know that fermented taste? Like you're like, whoa, so I take it out of my mouth. I spit it out onto the spoon, put it to the side. And I'm like, what? And then I don't know why, but to double check, I try another piece. And sure enough, so I tell the lady, the waitress, I'm like, oh, excuse me, the pineapple tastes fermented. But she doesn't understand me. Oh, she's like, what, do you want more pineapple? I'm like, no. The pineapple does not taste right. It tastes like fermented, like wrong. She's like, oh, okay. Well, we'll make you a new one. And I said, okay, but
don't put the pineapple.
The pineapple, I think it's the pineapple problem. Okay. And she's like, oh, maybe it's because they use frozen pineapple. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. Right. So she goes, they make me a new one. By this time, I'm like, I'm going to be late to Kirk's, darn it. All right. So then they bring me the new bowl. And this time it's got more spicy on it. Like they added more peppers, which I'm so excited about. And I'm thinking, okay, great. They fixed it. So I start eating. And then I get to the pineapple and I'm like, okay, come on. I bite into it. Same damn thing. They didn't fix shit. And so, and now I'm at one of those crossroads we were just talking about. And I was like, what do I do? Like, I need to go soon. And so I decided it was not worth my time to go any further with this. So I basically spit it out, ate around the pineapples, ate just the other parts, which tasted fine. And then I meekly paid and left. But I'm like, first, I hope I don't get sick. Probably not. But second, I should ask for my money back.
Yeah.
I don't know why I didn't ask for my money back.
Yeah.
I should have gotten in their face and pointed fingers.
Yeah. You could write a bad Yelp review.
Yeah.
Do you have a Yelp account?
No. Well, yeah, I do, but I haven't used it in a while.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things like if I just told you what the problem is, why do you bring me back the problem?
Well, okay. So again, going back to our analysis here, people are good. They, especially like a business owner, they want your business. So are they purposely?
Yes.
Okay. So, what are the logical possibilities here?
I think she didn't understand the problem.
Exactly. She didn't get it. She doesn't speak English as well as you do. And
yeah,
she just didn't get it. And she probably got shy in the moment and was just like, well, okay, fine. In her mind, she's like, okay, I get it. And then she's like, well, maybe if I just make him another one, that's the problem.
Yeah.
Here. And she had no clue that you were saying it's the pineapple.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe. Either way, I nearly got in a fight with all the cooks.
But yeah, I mean, if it's one thing I've learned from life, I guess, is that almost every time I have thought another person was acting wrongly in society or did something egregious, they were operating from what they had available to them. And I don't know what traumas they've been through. I don't know what triggers they have. I don't know the deficits they have. I mean, this woman could have had an IQ of 70, literally. You just don't even know. You know what I mean? Now, that doesn't make it right. It doesn't mean that you should have to suffer through a shitty thing of curry. But if you had a God's eye view on all the factors and were inside her head and everything, I suspect you'd be like, oh, I get it. You know, she didn't get it, or it's her first day, or she doesn't even know what pineapple is, or she's terrified of the cook and she doesn't want to say anything to the cook because the cook is an abusive asshole, or, you know, there's some kind of reason that will get in the way there. You know what I mean? And because the one thing I've learned is that 99.9% of people in a given behavior, especially, they're trying to stay out of trouble.
Yeah.
You know, they're trying to do right, and they don't want to incur someone's wrath or their gripes of wrath.
Okay, that makes sense. I buy it. I recently got on a debate on Facebook because someone made a post about, you know, how recently there was that thing where a black person gave a hug to a Nazi.
Yeah.
Remember that? And
he's like, "Why do you hate me?" or something.
Yeah.
I love you. Why do you hate me?
This person used that post to sort of make a political point, saying like, "Hey, you see, we should all be following this example. You know, we should try to give hugs to the opposition and things like that." And I'm paraphrasing tremendously. I made a joke on the post.
You did not.
You know, I always do.
That doesn't sound like you.
And my joke was, I said...
Let me say, it was obscure, sarcastic, and misunderstood.
Sarcastic, yes. Not obscure and not misunderstood.
Oh.
The joke was, my favorite scene in Saving Private Ryan was when all those soldiers were running up the beach to give hugs to their Nazi brothers in arms.
So that wasn't misunderstood?
Well, no, because he immediately deleted my post and messaged me and said, you know, you're part of the problem because you're being, this is totally apples to oranges. That was an actual war. This is just a protester, blah, 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 blah. So he got what I was saying. Well, okay, I guess you're right. He misunderstood that it was a joke.
He totally misunderstood, which I know would happen. But you're not saying what he thought you were saying.
Well, I mean, but
he thought you were over saying something.
Yeah, but at the same time, I guess he did sense what I was trying to imply with my joke, which was I was pushing back a little bit on the right. Tactic should be to give hugs to all Nazis, right?
Right. Not all Nazi hugs.
Not all Nazi hugs.
So your point was, I'm going to push a little bit back on this.
In a passive-aggressive joke way.
Well, no, let's say you actually sure. put it into, which I recommend you do occasionally, by the way. You could salvage some of your relationships by if you just put it straightforward. Just be like, which I'm sure everyone would take as sarcasm by now. But anyway, you could say something like, so, you know, I get it, but I'm going to push back a little bit because I do think in some instances, like with neo-Nazism, we should there are times where more forceful activity is required to put an end to something that needs to be put an end to. Right?
I should give background that with this person in particular, I used to try that approach, but unfortunately they are a black hole of argument.
Right.
So
it's even less of a smart thing to comment on his thing.
Yeah, that's fair. So what I ended up doing is ignoring, because he wrote me these long passages in direct messenger, and I ignored 90% of it, and I basically did one single line reply.
We have to pause the podcast because I have to find out who this is. Oh my God, it was him? That's crazy.
But the reason I was bringing that up is because, you know, you're right. Like, I think this reasonable, rational approach and assuming good intentions,
right? So the assumption about him is that he liked something on the internet and he's like, oh, that seems kind of nice, you know, and he's not thinking like, yes, I recommend that we put down all efforts to, you know, of strong arguments against, and we just hug everybody, you know, that's not what he's thinking, but he kind of liked something. Oh, and then he's like, well, I want to share this because I'm a sharer on Facebook. And what can I say? Well, I'm kind of a preacher too, so I'll say, you know what, we should all be doing that. And
it was in direct answer to the Antifa punch to the Nazi.
Yeah, and so I'm gonna post this because I think my general policy is peace and not punching people, and I'm a little uncomfortable with people of color punching people. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. And so he posts that thing, and he's trying in his way, one, to raise awareness about bad things in our society.
Yep.
He's trying in his way to say, let's all get along. He's trying in his way to, be an activist for something good. He could have just ignored it, or he could be a total right wing if he wanted to be, And he's not making a global argument or like a specific criticism to any other particular point of view.
Right.
Or even if he did have a specific point of view that was stupid, it's because there's a lot of politicized partisanship that's happening right now.
Yeah, right.
And people fall victim to a lot of propaganda, essentially. And
the reason I get triggered by these is because, to me, I tend to group this with the whole, well, if you really want to talk about violence against blacks, why aren't you talking about Chicago? I group it with that. And in point, in fact, the first person that commented on his post is another contact, and their message was something like, absolutely, the left is always using violence. They should learn from this. Yeah. And so I immediately was like, see, this is the problem. You have strange bedfellows here. And in his long-winded replies to me, inevitably, it was like, you live in an echo chamber, and you and your echo chamber are constantly trying to just, work against our president and all these things. And blah,
right.
blah.
So the strategy that I recommend, that I don't always follow, is trying to break the thing down to its bare minimum. Like I just got a long email from a guy who was arguing with me about something that I said in the podcast. And I had an impulse to like argue all of his points, to be like, that's wrong.
Yeah.
But instead I just broke it down to this very simple statement back to him. And I stood and I stuck to me. Yeah. I was just like, well, for me, this is how I see it. And I said, I think in 2 sentences, what I was thinking.
That's what I do nowadays, because as you know, I had to learn the hard way with someone that replying point by point to long Bibles of emails with attacks leads you nowhere.
Right. And so, but the larger point here is that if we could drill down into his head and see like how he got to where he was at that moment when he posted that thing, and how he even responded to, we would see a logical road. There was a logical like influence. There was a logical emotional reaction. There's a logical value system that is not like an alien process. No. It's like a human being process that has logic to it, and is probably largely based on good values, things that we can all agree on, the fundamental values of like of peace and of nonviolence and of making society better and of sticking up for your friends and whatever those kinds. Now, can those values end up manifesting in really terrible ways? Absolutely. Like putting a phone in your face or screaming at a smaller woman about a like that guy could literally have been traumatized in war by things being over him. Like I see that in clients. They'll tell me these stories, and I'll just be like, wow, like how many people have I bumped into in public who have been traumatized in some way and flipped out, and the other person is walking away going like, what an asshole, when I'm looking at it going like, the person had a flip out, they didn't know what to do, and they based on their past, they just had this reaction.
I totally get that. What one of the problems I have with this form of communication from this individual and a few others like that I know, they try to come off as, in this case in particular, his overarching point with tons of the posts he makes is sort of, can't we all just get along, right? And it sounds beautiful, right? Like, God, that's a good point. Why shouldn't we? But here's the catch: the posts he makes are never condemning. Like, for example, in one of the replies after he had deleted my first one, I posted a link to an article about 3 Nazis that drove up to some black protesters and shot at them. And I said, maybe those black protesters should have ran up to the car and tried to give them hugs as they were being shot at. He proceeded to, of course, delete that post as well. But the thing is, you will not see him post the article of the Nazi shooting and saying, see, this is we shouldn't do this. We should check my other article that I posted about using hugs or peace. We shouldn't do. I never see him posting something of, the negative things that happen from the side he's trying to defend, right? I only see him posting either bad examples from quote unquote the left, or in this case, a good example, like that's a good black person. That's a good lefty.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Right. So, is it wrong-headed? Yes. Is it going to drag us into the past? Absolutely. Does he need to change his fucking mind? Yes.
Right.
But is he coming from a place of good?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's not coming from a place of evil. Yeah. He's not coming from a place of like,
that's fair.
I wake up today and I will make other people's lives worse,
That's fair.
So when you assume that, then when you approach it, I find it's more successful.
And to be fair, I very much knew that me making a joke on his thread would trigger him.
Yeah.
However, what I did tell him in private, I made 2 comments back to him in the long private thing, because to follow your advice, which you've given me before, I didn't go point by point. But the one thing
I've given you this advice before.
Yeah, about other people that,
like political.
No. When I was struggling with the personal.
Oh,
remember?
Yeah.
Okay, but I basically said one thing to him that I really felt like I needed to tell him, which was, I said to him, I see you as someone that really does have a good intention, and I said several things, like, I think you're trying to advocate for peace and all these. I said several things, but I do think that you end up with some people on your side that I don't know that you want to be on your side because of this, that, and the. So I did try to make that point, which was what you're pointing out, which is I don't believe he's coming at it from a negative. Like, I don't think he has bad intentions.
Right. And that's the fundamental realization that all Americans need to have. And when you think the opposite, we have a partisan battle and a cultural battle that we have today.
We never got to the tough and bluffs.
So you listeners out there who frequently email me whenever we talk about politics, if you're just going to repeat yourself, I'd rather have you not email me, honestly. If you feel like super compelled, like you have to get something off your chest, and, feel free. But so if you feel compelled to somehow put me in my place or point out the finer points and like reiterate what Berto's been saying, like just keep it to yourself, because it actually, if you want to comment on psychotherapy and you want to talk about like we got an email from patron Bridget today, and she was talking about my conversion therapy episode, and she was kind of disagreeing with me a little bit in a totally nice way, but because in the conversion therapy episode, I was outwardly debating in my mind about whether or not I think it should be made illegal,
Yeah.
Because there aren't a lot of therapies that are illegal. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, because in the episode, I'm like, conversion therapy needs to go away, and marginalization and judgmentalness of homosexuality and sexual orientation needs to go away. Like, that just needs to end, because it just should, because it's stupid. But do I think in the interim that clients who really, for perhaps bad reasons, really want conversion therapy, and there's a therapist who's willing to engage in that, do I want to, by the law of the land, eliminate that from happening? What kind of precedent? Do I want the government dictating the legality of our practice. Now, should we be advocating for it not to happen? Yeah. Should we be trying to change our society? Yeah. Should we be trying to help therapists understand the whole landscape? Yeah. But do I believe that we should? So I was sort of going back and forth about that.
But you do believe that government should draw lines where freedoms are infringed between one party to another?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so I would say in general, most of the times that the government has meddled has not been that bad. But, I have family members who were imprisoned by the government because they considered it important as law passed to imprison Japanese Americans because they thought that, one, they might spy for the enemy, and two, they wanted to quote unquote protect Japanese Americans from white people harming them.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm not exactly pumped about the idea of the government in meddling themselves in my life,
Sure.
In my decisions. Okay. And so, it's like you make bad decisions, government.
Mm-hmm.
So how about just as a policy, be very careful about involving yourself and stuff like that, advocate, educate, ethical codate, whatever, but pass by law. I don't know.
But then you get these problems with regulations, because a lot of the certain sides say, the government should pass almost zero regulations, and we should trust the free market system that, there will be clean water and there will be, good garbage dumps and all these things.
No, that's why, data shows that when you leave it up to business and capitalism to manage those factors, that they don't. In my profession and with conversion therapy, we have actually, without any laws, effectively eliminated its practice. Like it's very rare that it's practiced. You know what I mean? And whereas in the past, it was much more prevalent.
Your industry might be an exception, maybe, or something where maybe because you guys are therapists or something. But I think a lot of industry ends up veering towards optimizing to the point of tragedy. If they can squeeze more money, they will.
Right, because capitalism and stockholder emphasis is all that's the job.
And so I always say, if you can trust your government, or if you want to trust your government with regulating the quality of the water and the air you breathe and sending people to wars, then I think a few more laws might be okay. But how many and what? I agree with you. There's got to be limits, and if those limits
they have to be smart is the point.
Yeah.
But anyway, the point is I'm not excited about the government getting involved in my profession is the thing.
Yeah.
Because I feel like we can probably do this on our own. But anyway, so I did a very brief, much briefer than this discussion on the podcast about that. And patron Bridget wrote in and she was just like, well, the thing is that in my opinion, we can't ethically provide a service to someone that is going to harm them. For example, if someone said, I want to kill myself, and I want you to help me, then as a therapist, I have to say, I can't do that for you.
Yeah.
Or if someone said, I want you to help me abuse my spouse, then I would have to say, I'm sorry, but I can't do that. That's, I refuse to provide that service to you. And so she was kind of making a different point than what I was saying, because I'm not saying that if any therapist wants to refuse to provide conversion therapy, then go for it, But what I'm saying is I'm just not sure if I want to make something illegal and force people to stop rather than convince them. Anyway.
It is interesting that we tend to only have laws about physical harm, but not mental harm.
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
Like the therapist, abusing the person psychologically to a point that they have a breakdown, but maybe they can't be proven that. But if they cut their arm, certainly it's like, well, you cut his arm.
Right, exactly, yeah. So what I told Bridget was that I agree with her, but I still am just a little worried about the government passing laws about my profession. In this instance, I'm all for it, but what about the next one where I'm not all? In fact, there was a time in Washington State actually recently, maybe this is where it comes from.
Interesting.
This year or last year, Washington State passed this law that basically made all of us therapists, or as a court precedent or something. I did a whole episode on this actually. I need to look at my notes. there was a governmental action that basically made all of us therapists liable for any future violent act that any of our clients would
oh my God.
would commit, even if there was extremely low indication that they would commit a violent act at a later date.
Right.
And so that's when I was like, whoa, because and all of us therapists got together and petitioned and da. So it's like the government just sort of backed its way into this stupidity without asking us, like, well, what do you guys think about this law? Does this make sense to you?
I love how, like, if you guys are, if one of your clients does something bad in the future, you guys are liable because there's this tenuous connection. But if this other industry willfully defrauds a global economy out of trillions of dollars, no worries.
Right. Because lobbyists, right?
Yeah.
But like, so in that instance, it was like government getting very much into our business, and they were completely stupid about it.
Yeah.
To the point where 100% of therapists in Washington State rose up and said, like, no, like, yeah, sure, we don't want bad things to happen to people, but you're basically going to make all of us open to lawsuits for anytime one of our clients in the future does something wrong, or you're going to make us call the police on clients at the drop of a hat. Like, oh, that I have a client who has been in a fight in the past and has a little bit of an anger problem.
Yeah.
So I have to call the cops and say, like, so I have this client. The other thing is you're gonna hear from therapists 100 times a day.
Yeah.
Like,
totally.
do you want a whole phone bank dedicated to talking?
It'll become noise, and then it actually be counterproductive.
Right.
Because when you do hear an actual warning.
Right. So it's like, and no one will go to therapy anymore because they don't want to be called the cops. It's just like, what are you doing? Okay. Yeah. And then it requires this whole effort to kind of back them out of it. We have to have these Senate bills and da. And so anyway, my bigger point here is that when Bridget wrote in and wanted to debate me about a psychotherapy issue, I'm all for that. If you want to, like, I consider that to be like why I do this.
Fair game.
Yeah. But to like blast me for my stupid political views or my views on like how to see political views or something, I just have to say, like, it's so irrelevant to me. I'm just like, I don't care. I don't care about convincing you. I don't even know if I'm right.
Right.
I'm not a scholar. I'm just a dumbass who watches CNN and looks at Reddit now and then, and like has like a stupid thing in their head, and talking. Well, that does it for that episode of Psychology in Seattle. Thanks for joining us out there. Please take care of yourself because
you deserve it.